Today we are going to be installing brand new ignition wires onto this 1997 LX450, aka Toyota Land Cruiser, aka FZJ80, with the 4.5 liter 1FZ FE engine that comes in these guys. The wires on here, they're fine. They're probably okay, but they're not the OEM Toyota wires. I'm a big fan of Toyota wires on these particular motors. Depending on what engine you have, there might be good upgrade paths, etc. On this motor, the factory wires work really well, far more reliable, way less missing. And I know for a fact the ones on there, I don't like, and I'll show you why later. Here's a brand new set of factory wires for this motor. If you want to order yours, part number is 90919215557. Again, 90919215557. If you can see it well here in the video, they've got the red ends on them. The rest of the wire is all black. Make sure you don't get knockoffs. This is exactly what the factory wires for this engine look like. Make sure you get the correct ones. Once we get the old ones pulled off, I'll show you the differences and why these are better. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is pull off the valley covers. There's two of them, one here and one under there. There is one 10mm head bolt here. It's Phillips as well. Just use a socket. It's easier and you won't strip the center out. Another one right here. Those two coming off will allow this one to be removed. And you've got one more back here. And there's a bolt right there and one right there. Once you get those two off, that'll be able to get pulled off as well. Before you pull those two off, you want to pull this intake hose off. There's two clamps that hold this hose on. One is right here, one is right here. Get those two loosened up, and then also loosen this guy up and undo these clamps right here. 1, 2, 3, so that this can come off and be rotated around easily. So get this all loose, loosen those two clamps, and then pick this cover up, and that whole thing will slide right off. So I've got this guy off, clamps are loose, that clamp is loose. This guy here just is a press fit in there. Make sure you take that off. Now what we want to do is lift this up. You see the filter under there? Nice clean filter. And now that we've got this up, sorry, couldn't do it with one hand. Not as talented as some of you guys with one hand. Haha, just kidding. Now we're gonna take this off. All right, this hose is off. The lid for the air filter's off. It's all sitting there. And we've got nice access to all this stuff. So next thing I'm gonna do is remove all 4 of those bolts, get the valley covers off, and we'll move on to the next step. Also, if you're doing maintenance on your truck, check out my other videos where we talk about replacing the PCV valve and the grommet and these hoses here, and doing the belts, all 3 belts for the accessory belts on the motor, and a lot of other useful tips and maintenance. Oh, yeah, gas struts on the hood and on the trunk lid. There's step-by-step videos for all that stuff, so check out the other videos as well. Now that we've got the valley covers off, look around and you'll see that there's this big plastic assembly here that the wires run through. If you move some of the wires out of the way, so this hole here is what the valley cover goes through and screws into. And then there is, oh, here it is. There's another bolt right here that you've got to remove to get this plastic assembly off. So remove this one as well. And then we should have everything off that we need to before we get started removing the wires. Now that we've got that off, this whole assembly should be loose and come up very easily. So if we were just replacing spark plugs, what I would do is go through one by one, remove the spark plug, put it back in, put the boot and the connector back on, just so I don't forget where things go. Since we're replacing all the wires, I'm just going to pull everything out since we're going to have to redo it anyway. I'm kind of glad we're going to redo it because look at how messy all of this is. And if you can tell, some of these wires are longer than they need to be because this is not an OEM set. Even the NGK set which is one of the higher quality sets for this engine other than the OEM, still doesn't fit as good as the factory Toyota set. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these one by one, get them loosened up and pulled out this way towards the front of the engine, then start removing the connectors off of the distributor cap, and then we'll start with the new set. So for the distributor cap, you'll notice that there's a clip right here. So this clip, you pull it up and this guy comes off and the whole connector comes out like so. And it's the same for the rest of them as well. Oh man, look, this one's missing the cap. I wonder if it's somewhere up here. Huh, no. Wow. So I guess the previous owner just didn't bother putting that on, or maybe a mechanic that was not so great at what he does. Well, thanks whoever did that. I wonder if that's what some of the misfire's from. Huh. So anyway, make sure you pull the clip up. One by one, let's get all those out. If you notice, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the middle one goes to your coil. I was following the wrong wire, my bad. So your middle one, if you follow the wire there, should go over here, and there is your coil. Now, while you're doing all this, it's also a good time to inspect your coil, make sure it's in good shape. You want to check for swelling or cracking in the housing. This one looks to be in pretty good shape, and it's an OEM Toyota coil, which I'm happy with, as long as it's not an aftermarket unit. Sometimes the aftermarket units will give you a temporary boost, but they just don't last as long. I don't want to be stuck out on the road somewhere with an aftermarket coil failing on me. So this one looks good, but make sure to inspect yours. Make sure there's no cracks around any of the seams. Make sure the housing itself is not swelling, and you should be good. At this point, we're going to go ahead and get all these removed one by one. Let's see, that one's coming off. That one's coming off here. This one here. And that one. And one more. Should probably be wearing gloves. So many little sharp edges and things that could scratch you up, but I'm being lazy. So we got all those off. If your distributor cap is old as your wires, or even 6,000 to 7,000 miles old, I would recommend replacing the cap and the rotor as well. This time around, I'm not going to be doing that, but on one of the follow-up videos, I will be doing the cap and the rotor as well. This time, we're just going to stick to the wires. So we've got all of these out. I'm going to gently route them through here. Make sure we get past all the connectors. Get everything loose and out of the way. There we go. So now they're all in the front of the motor. And one by one, we're going to pull these plugs, the boots, upwards. Now make sure to grab it by the collar right there and tug real firmly. Don't pull on the wire. Try to pull on the boot itself. I got the front three out. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to reach around, and I'm not going to be able to get the back three on video because I'm going to be hanging over the side of the truck just to be able to reach them. So give me a sec. I'll be right back. We've got those all out. I've got the wires pulled out. Now let's go check them out. One more thing before I forget. Make sure to get your coil wire as well. We're going to be replacing that one too. Now, watch closely. So, this aftermarket set, you can tell, number 6 spark plug in that valley has some old dry rust residue on there. It'll wipe right off. That's from an old heater control valve hose failure where it drips right on top of that guy and went in there. That's since been replaced. It's nice and dry now, but that's what that residue is from. So there's a couple things that I don't like about these wires, and a lot of the aftermarket wires. One, the wire itself is in this little boot, but it's not really secured in any way Sometimes when you try to pull these up and out, the metal connector that's in there will stay attached to the top of the spark plug, and the wire will just continue pushing its way down, and you'll pull up and the boot will come up and the stem, but the wire will still be down there. That's what happened as I was trying to take these out on 2 of them, actually. The other thing I don't like is the links aren't all correct, and you end up with wonky installations where, you know, there's extra wire in certain places and it's just not clean looking. Even though the valley covers, these guys are on there and it's keeping everything looking nice and neat underneath there, it's not great. If you buy an aftermarket set of wires, it won't come with the plastic bracket, and it generally won't come with the Toyota style clips in the right sizes and quantities to hold the wires together. You'll more than likely use your old ones, which is okay. It's not terrible. And then last but not least, you're going to have possibly subpar performance, maybe a little bit of missing, maybe some marking, maybe wires that just don't last as long. So on to the new set here. We've got the coil wire here. That's just being held on by a little rubber band. So you've got your new coil wire. Don't freak out if it doesn't have a red end. The coil wire has black ends on both sides. And if you notice, you've got a brand new bracket there. You've got a bracket here that was missing on our other one that fits between cylinders 4 and 3. And one of the valley bolt covers goes through that. You've got spark plug wire connectors here, 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 and here that are already pre-installed to locate everything exactly where it needs to be. And then you've got the wires that are not just pushed through the little ends, but I'm not sure if there's adhesive on the inside or what, but they're attached very firmly. They're not going to pull through in any sort of way, pull through the boot and the stem. Overall, it's going to give you a much more firm installation. Everything's going to sit exactly where it needs to be, and the fact that they already have these clips pre-placed where they need to be. You've got brand new wire guides there and everything else. It's just awesome. And you know what? It doesn't really cost much more than an aftermarket set. Look around on the Toyota OEM websites online, and you'll be surprised how affordable the factory wires are, and you'll probably never buy an aftermarket set again. So let's get started installing this thing. So the order I like to do this in is from the far end to the closer end, because if you start here, then you're going to be tugging on all these wires to get that last one angled in correctly and installed. So I'm going to start with cylinder number 6 back there, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then after those are all done, then we'll work on getting everything attached to the distributor cap. So let's get everything routed underneath this valve cover hose, this valve cover vent hose. We're going to get them routed there, just kind of laid off to the side towards the exhaust manifold, and then start at the far end and then come towards the front of the engine. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. These went in so easily. All the wires are a perfect length. Now that everything is on, I went ahead and put the 1 bolt through the, oh, there it is, through the plastic bracket there. As you tighten that guy up, make sure this one lines up, or else you're gonna hate yourself later on, as you won't be able to get the bolt thread started. So as you get that tightened up, again, make sure this one is lined up with the hole. I went ahead and left this rubber band on there just to hold this stuff together. I'll take it off when we start doing the distributor connector. And man, this stuff fits so well. It's almost like it was made for this car, but it was. You know that, right? Everything is in there correctly. I didn't move a single one of these clips. Nothing came off as I was putting them on. Everything, all of these boots popped in so nicely. I didn't have to struggle or guess whether they were making contact with the tops of the spark plugs. Everything went on perfect. So now I'm not gonna mess with this quite yet. I'm gonna get those valley covers screwed on, the back one and the front one, and then we'll do the distributor. Now what you want to do is line the valley covers on there up in place without the bolts, and leave all 4 bolts out and get this bolt hand threaded in. That's the one that'll go through the hole in that plastic tray that holds all the spark plug wires, and then get that bolt hand threaded in. That's the one that's going to go through the other clip that's on the spark plug wires. And once those threads get started, then do the other 2, which is going to be this one here and the one all the way in the back. Now let's get those tightened up and we'll start on the distributor. One more thing before we move on. These bolts are just holding on this decorative plastic cover. Don't over tighten them. You're going to crack that plastic cover. Turn them until it's snug and your tool stops turning freely, and then go about another 1/8 of a turn, and that's all you need. Now there are numbers on the distributor cap that indicate which cylinder it's going to. If you look closely, the top one is going to be cylinder 1, then cylinder 4, then cylinder number 2, then number 6 at the bottom, 3, and then the far left one is going to be cylinder 5. Again, 1, 4, 2, 6, 3, 5. And the middle one is going to go to your coil. So we'll get them plugged in one by one. At this point, you're probably thinking, oh my God, how do I know which one of these wires go where? Yeah, you know what? If you had an aftermarket set of wires, you'd probably need to leave these valley covers off, trace each of them one by one, and then hope you get them in the right spot. And with these Toyota wires, the story just keeps getting better. Let me show you why. Well, I left one of them off so I could show you. This one is the number 4 wire, and I don't think you can see it on the video, but right there it says 4 on the wire. And if you go through and look at all the rest, every single one is labeled 1 through 6 so that you know exactly where it goes, and there's no guesswork, and you don't have to trace the wires all the way back to where they go and everything else. So we're going to plug this last one in right here. Oh, and one other thing. Every single one, if you notice, there's 3 different style caps with the clips right here on them. And the reason is the clips are at different angles so that you have a really nice clean installation on the distributor cap, and you don't have them all wonky and this way and that way while you're trying to put them on and trying to force them into the distributor cap, even though they might be at the wrong angle. It's another benefit of the Toyota wire. So let's get this last one clipped back on, and we should be done. So now that they're all back on, I don't know if you remember the before. I'll put a before in this video clip so that you can see how nicely everything's lined up. All the wires are the right length, all the clips are in the right direction. Everything looks like this thing just came from the factory. I love it. One last thing you got to do, don't forget, is, you guessed it, plug in the coil wire. For the coil wire, the angled connector goes on the distributor cap, and the straight connector goes on the coil. So that's the connector right there. Get that guy plugged in. Got that in. Got the other end plugged in at the correct angle on the distributor cap. And we are all done. Hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to check out the other ones on more maintenance tips and how-tos on your Land Cruiser. And if you have a 200 series, make sure to check out those videos as well. There's plenty of helpful tips on things on your 200 series, whether it's an LX570 or Land Cruiser, that you can do on your own. Oops, one last thing. Let's get this guy. I put the hose over there, the intake hose. Let's get all that connected back up. That's all back in place. Make sure you tighten clamp. Put this cable through that cable stay, and don't forget your wing nuts and your 3 clamps for the air filter housing. Again, hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, and make sure to check out the other videos. Have a good one.